Imagine you're one of the very first humans to ever walk the earth. There are no schools, no parents sitting you down for the talk, no books, no internet, no doctors, no biology. No one even knows what DNA is. You're simply trying to survive another day. You hunt when you're hungry. You sleep when you're tired. You hide when predators come too close. Everything you know comes from experience. So here's the question. How did ancient humans ever figure out sex? Who taught the very first people what to do? The answer might surprise you, because the truth is, nobody did. Unlike learning to make fire or build tools, humans didn't invent sex. They inherited it. Long before the first human ever existed, life on Earth had already been reproducing sexually for hundreds of millions of years. Fish were doing it, reptiles were doing it, birds were doing it, mammals were doing it. Even our earliest ancestors were doing it long before they could speak a single word. By the time modern humans appeared around 300,000 years ago, the instinct already existed. In other words, the first humans didn't wake up one day and discover sex. They were born with brains and bodies that already knew how to desire it. That might sound strange. After all, babies aren't born knowing how to drive a car or build a house. So how can someone know something they've never been taught? The answer lies in the difference between learning and instinct. Learning comes from experience. Instinct comes from evolution. Think about a newborn baby. Nobody teaches it how to cry. Nobody explains how to suckle milk. Nobody gives it lessons on blinking or breathing. These behaviors are built into the nervous system before birth. Animals are full of instincts. A spider has never attended a web building class, yet it spins a nearly perfect web. A sea turtle hatches on a beach and somehow crawls toward the ocean without anyone pointing the way. A bird knows how to build a nest despite never seeing blueprints. These aren't learned behaviors. They're ancient programs written by evolution over millions of years. Humans have instincts too. We naturally seek food when we're hungry. We pull our hand away from something hot before we even think about it. We form emotional bonds with family. And as we grow older, our bodies begin producing hormones that create sexual attraction. That attraction wasn't invented by ancient humans. It was inherited from countless generations before them. But instinct alone isn't the whole story, because humans are different from almost every other animal. We're curious. We ask questions. We notice patterns. And that's where things get really interesting. Even if ancient humans didn't fully understand sex, they were incredible observers. Their survival depended on paying attention. They watched animals every single day. They saw wolves forming pairs. They saw deer mating during certain seasons. They saw birds building nests before laying eggs. They saw pregnant animals giving birth. Over thousands of years, they couldn't help but notice that mating was often followed by babies. At first, they probably didn't understand why. To them, pregnancy may have seemed mysterious. After all, many months passed between sex and birth. Without science, making that connection wasn't easy. Imagine seeing rain today and flowers blooming 3 months later. Would you automatically realize the two were connected? Probably not. The same problem faced our ancestors. For thousands of years, many ancient cultures believed pregnancy was caused by spirits, gods, the moon, or other supernatural forces. Some even thought a woman could become pregnant simply by entering a sacred place or being touched by divine power. Those ideas sound strange today, but remember, without microscopes, without anatomy, without genetics, they were simply trying to explain a mystery using the knowledge they had. And despite all those misunderstandings, one thing never disappeared: the instinct itself. Because unlike knowledge, instinct doesn't need an explanation. It simply works. So if nobody taught ancient humans about sex, how did they actually know what to do? The answer lies in one of the oldest forces in nature: hormones. As children grow into adolescence, their bodies begin producing larger amounts of hormones like testosterone and estrogen. These chemicals don't just change the body on the outside, they also change the brain. Suddenly, people begin noticing others in a different way. They may feel attraction, curiosity, a desire for closeness. None of those feelings require a teacher. They're part of the body's natural development. This isn't unique to humans either. Look at almost any mammal on Earth. A young lion isn't given lessons by its parents on how to mate. A wolf doesn't attend a class. A wild horse doesn't read instructions. Yet when they reach maturity, they almost always know what to do. That's because evolution has been refining these instincts for millions of years. Humans inherited that same biological blueprint. Of course, humans are much more intelligent than other animals. We don't just act on instinct, we think about it. We communicate. We form relationships. We have emotions, cultures, and traditions. But beneath all of that is the same biological system that has existed long before humans ever appeared. And ancient people were incredibly observant. They didn't have laboratories, but they had something just as valuable. Time. Imagine spending your entire life outdoors. No TV, no phones, no cities. Your world is forests, rivers, mountains, and animals. You notice everything because your survival depends on it. Ancient humans would have watched countless animals during mating seasons. They would have seen birds performing elaborate dances to attract partners, male deer locking antlers to compete for females, wolves raising pups together, chimpanzees using social bonding in ways surprisingly similar to humans. These observations likely helped reinforce behaviors that already existed through instinct, but observation alone wasn't enough. Humans also learn through imitation. Children copy adults all the time. They learn language by hearing it. They learn facial expressions by seeing them. They learn social behavior by watching their families and communities. Sexual behavior was probably no different. Young people didn't receive formal lessons, but they lived in close-knit groups where privacy was very different from what it is today. In many prehistoric societies, people likely shared living spaces, making it easier for younger members of the group to observe adult relationships. That doesn't mean children fully understood what they were seeing, but over time, those observations, combined with natural instincts and physical maturity, helped fill in the gaps. Then there was something else that made humans unique: curiosity. Humans have always experimented. The same curiosity that led someone to strike two rocks together and accidentally discover fire also encouraged people to explore their own bodies and relationships. Trial and error has shaped nearly every human invention. It also helped shape human understanding of reproduction. Eventually, people began noticing patterns. Women who had intimate relationships with men often became pregnant months later. Not every single time, but often enough that the connection became harder to ignore. It probably wasn't one person who figured it out. Instead, this knowledge likely developed gradually across thousands of years in different places, as generations shared what they observed. Some groups understood the connection earlier than others. Some held on to myths much longer. But little by little, experience replaced superstition. Still, even after people realized that sex could lead to pregnancy, they had no idea how it worked. They couldn't see sperm. They didn't know eggs existed. They had never heard of chromosomes, DNA, or fertilization. To them, the inside of the body was a complete mystery. And when people don't have scientific answers, they create stories. Some believed babies were gifts from the gods. Others thought ancestors placed spirits into unborn children. Some cultures believed certain rivers, mountains, or even phases of the moon influenced pregnancy. These explanations weren't foolish. They were humanity's earliest attempts to understand one of life's greatest mysteries. It would take thousands more years before science finally uncovered what was really happening inside the human body. And that discovery would completely change the way we understood reproduction forever. For most of human history, people knew that sex could eventually lead to babies. What they didn't know was how. Imagine trying to solve a puzzle while half the pieces are invisible. You can see a woman become pregnant. You can watch a baby being born. But everything happening inside the body is completely hidden. Without microscopes or modern medicine, the process looked almost magical. That's why nearly every ancient civilization created its own explanation. The ancient Egyptians believed fertility was influenced by the gods. The Greeks connected reproduction to divine power and natural forces. Many indigenous cultures around the world developed stories that linked pregnancy to spirits, ancestors, or sacred places. Although these ideas were different, they all had one thing in common. People were trying to explain something they couldn't see, and that's a very human thing to do. Whenever we don't have enough information, our brains naturally search for patterns. Sometimes those patterns lead to scientific discoveries. Other times, they lead to myths. But even without understanding reproduction, ancient humans understood something else. Raising children was incredibly difficult. Life wasn't easy. There were no hospitals, no vaccines, no supermarkets, no police. Every day was a fight to survive. Food had to be hunted or gathered. Water had to be found. Shelter had to be built. In that environment, a newborn baby needed constant protection. Unlike many animals that can walk within hours of being born, human babies are almost completely dependent on adults. That dependence lasts for years. Because of this, strong family groups became one of humanity's greatest advantages. Children who had more adults caring for them were more likely to survive. Over thousands of generations, this shaped not only our societies, but also our emotions. Love, trust, attachment, jealousy. These aren't just feelings. They're part of a complex system that helped humans cooperate and raise the next generation. Scientists believe this is one reason humans developed such strong pair bonds compared to many other mammals. Sex wasn't only about reproduction. It also helps strengthen relationships between partners. The brain reinforced those relationships by releasing chemicals like oxytocin and dopamine, making intimacy feel emotionally rewarding as well as physically pleasurable. This encouraged cooperation long after a child was conceived, but humans didn't stop there. As language evolved, people began sharing knowledge more effectively. Instead of every generation starting from scratch, parents could teach children. Communities could pass down traditions, stories became lessons, knowledge accumulated. One generation discovered something. The next generation improved it. That's one of humanity's greatest superpowers. Unlike instinct, knowledge can grow. A wolf today behaves much like a wolf thousands of years ago. But humans transformed from using stone tools to building cities, writing books, and eventually sending spacecraft beyond our solar system. The same ability to learn also transformed our understanding of reproduction. Slowly, observations became better explanations. Better explanations became early science. And centuries later, scientists finally discovered sperm, eggs, fertilization, and DNA, revealing that reproduction wasn't magic at all, but one of the most remarkable biological processes on Earth. Looking back, it's incredible to think that every scientific discovery about human reproduction started with one simple thing: curiosity. Ancient humans didn't have the answers, but they kept asking questions, and that curiosity changed everything. So, let's go back to the original question: how did ancient humans know about sex? The simplest answer is, they didn't have to be taught the way we teach someone math, language, or history. The desire itself was already built into their biology. Just like hunger tells you to eat and thirst tells you to drink, hormones and evolution created a natural drive that encouraged reproduction. By the time early humans reached puberty, their bodies and brains were already changing in ways that made them experience attraction and curiosity. In that sense, nature was the first teacher. But understanding why sex existed took much longer. Early humans probably didn't realize that one specific act eventually led to pregnancy. The gap between conception and birth is about 9 months, making the connection difficult to notice right away. Instead, generations of observation slowly revealed the pattern. As people watched families grow and children being born, they began connecting the dots over thousands of years. Those observations turned into beliefs. Some beliefs were surprisingly close to the truth. Others became myths that lasted for centuries. Then science entered the picture. In the 1600s, the invention of powerful microscopes allowed scientists to discover sperm cells for the first time. A little later, they identified the female egg, and over the following centuries, researchers uncovered fertilization, genetics, chromosomes, and DNA. For the first time in history, humanity could actually see the microscopic process that ancient people had only guessed at. The mystery that had puzzled humans for thousands of years finally had an answer. And perhaps the most fascinating part of all is this: every single person alive today is the result of an unbroken chain of reproduction, stretching back billions of years. Your parents, your grandparents, thousands of generations of ancestors, early farmers, hunter-gatherers, the very first humans, and even the ancient mammals that lived long before humans existed. If that chain had been broken even once, you wouldn't be here today. That's how deeply reproduction is woven into the story of life. But humans are unique because we've gone beyond instinct. Today, we understand reproduction through biology instead of myths. We can study hormones, genetics, pregnancy, and human development in incredible detail. We know that sexual desire is a product of evolution, but we also know that people have the freedom to make their own choices. That's an important distinction. Our instincts may come from nature. Our decisions come from us. So, the next time someone asks, "Who taught the first humans about sex?" you'll know the answer. No one stood in front of a classroom. No ancient teacher gave the first lesson. Evolution had already written the instructions into the human body long before the first human ever existed. What humans discovered later wasn't how to have sex, it was how it actually works, and that journey from instinct to science is one of the most fascinating stories in human history. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more videos exploring the incredible mysteries of science, evolution, and human history. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.